what I want to try and show you is how I'm going to get from this being a local product to deploying. Quick rundown of how this works. Let's go for sign in. So that's successful. Let's sign out. That disappears, goes back to the home page. What I want to try and do is get this from being localhost and get this live. So the steps I need to go through, I need to get the database on MongoDB Atlas. We'll then use render to put the API up so we can access that. We'll then introduce the client at the front end and we'll put that up on Vercel. We'll go into more details as we go along. We'll then need to change references to where we need to do fetch requests, where for cause policies, what the path is from where this thing's being accessed. So first of all, let's get going on the database. MongoDB Atlas. I'm going to sign in. So you can see I've got 2 other projects that I've been messing around with that are on there. I need to start a new project, a unique name. Let's do auth with cookies. Add members permissions. No, it's all good. Create project. I am the only member. So a couple of things here. So this warning sign, current IP address not added. You will not be able to connect to databases from this address. So for the moment, I'm going to click that. In fact, now let's jump and do it in one go. Visit net. So this now says that's my current IP address. So it now means that will connect. However, let's keep life easy because later on we won't be from there. We'll be using other places. So allow access from anywhere. That's what we want. Confirm. Right. So in fact, let's delete my IP address. Now it says you'll only be able to connect to your cluster from the following list of IP addresses, all of them. So we're good now. Let's close that. Need to go to build a database. Paid for, and this one's free. So let's go in that one. We've got a bit of setup to do. How would you like to authenticate? Username and password. So I've got myself in there, auth with cookies, with a password. We'll need that password later on to access from Backend. It's going in the cloud, so let's do that. That was the element that we looked at earlier, so we've now said that access from anywhere. And finish and close. Okay, go to databases. So in there, browse collections, and my own data. So database name. So I've called it auth user DB. So that's for the local. So let's do auth user, let's call it auth user DB, but cloud. The collection name, so this is the schema that we did. Now I believe that is users, just looking at my notes here. Yes, users. All right, there we go. So it'll be auth user DB cloud, users, blank, nothing in there. Great. Okay, so that's what we wanted. So connect. So I now want to find out what's the string, what's the way that I actually connect this to the back end. So I've got a few options. The MongoDB shell, connect your application, the native drivers. I haven't downloaded any of those. Now it says MongoDB's graphical user interface, which I believe is what potentially I'm on now already. Now it does say connect using VS Code, which technically I'm using, but I've not downloaded anything to do that. I just want the string that does it, so I believe this is the way to go. And there we go. So this is, there we go. Look, I do not have MongoDB Compass, so you can see why I like to go through this with you, because it is not obvious what's going on. So copy the connection string, and this is what we need in the backend. Notice that we've got to input a password, and now there it says test, but we've called ours, we've got auth with cookies, we've called ours users, so we need to change that as well. So let's copy that. So now what you'll notice, this has been set up so we don't need to change the code itself, just the environment variable. So right here, that is hard coded. What happens in this setup is it says if there is an environment variable called MongoDB_URL, use that, or use this one. So currently there isn't one, but we're going to change that. We're going to put one in. Now, because these environment variables aren't stored, that then means in the repo, that means that we're not actually changing any code. I don't need to upload anything. I don't need to do anything with that. This should now just work. So let's have a look. You can see here, let's undo that and add this. Sign up. Let's add the one that I was trying before so it doesn't exist. There we go. So we've actually got a cookie and it's signed up. It's connected. Let's have a look at application. We've got a cookie. And let's take a look over here and refresh. There we go. So the backend is now connected with this cloud-based database. So that's the first point. We've got done, 2 more to go. Okay, so we're going to host the back. I'm going to log in with GitHub. You can see a different one that I've used before. We want a web service. So connect to repository. Let's go to configure account. So I've got 2-factor authentication on here, so you won't see this, but I have to go to GitHub on my mobile and enter those digits. And we're in. Only select repository, so you can see 2 that I've had on there before. It's the API we want to put on. We've got the client, but we want the API. So let's connect this one. It brings me back. And now it's become an option. So let's connect a unique name for your web service. So again, it says unique to them. I'm going authentication with cookies. There was my confusion from earlier. So this MongoDB had one place. This one I could do it wherever, but they've automatically chosen closest to me in Europe. Branch is main. Yep, that's fine. The root directory, if I leave that blank, it'll be fine, which is what we want. Yes, we're running Node as our runtime. The build command. Now the build command, they said yarn. Now ours is actually, I don't have any yarn kind of backend stuck in, so ours is actually npm install is what I need. And the start command, everything's fine. Obviously we're going to take the free version for this one, create web service. Notice that free services scale down when inactive. So one thing to bear in mind there is we're going to find at different points that this is a slow process, and if I've not been using it, or maybe the first time I'm going to use it, it's going to take a while for some of the connections to happen. I did trial this out before and I did experience some issues that I couldn't figure out to start with. I've made all the right connections, why is this not working? It was actually the time and space, so things might have timed out the first time, not great, but as I look, here we go. Build's too slow, upgrade to a paid plan, so it's just part of what goes on. I realised while this is going that we need to get the environment variables in, so I'm going to add those. So the ones that we've got, and again we'll grey this out, let's go here. So I've got the JWT secret key, let's put that in, and the key. Okay, and if we go back to logs, as it stands it's already started it, but it might not have those keys. So I'm actually going to restart that with a manual deploy latest commit. While we're waiting for the back end, we need to now consider the fact that the front end, the client, is doing fetch requests currently to this local API, but we're not using that anymore, so we need to get to components. Now, you won't know this, but in this I've got both secret, sign in, sign out, and sign up all have fetch requests in them. So let's start at the top of this pile. So I've got secret, so fetch request goes to localhost auth status. Here is the new URL, let's copy that. And over here, now we'll change the initial part. We need that also for sign in, sign out, and sign up. Now, someone with more time on their hands would set up something better for this. Let's get this up and running again. So I was saying actually, so somebody else might be able to hard code in localhost and then set up variables such that it said whether you are doing this, running this in production or development. So not ideal, but here we go. We've just changed it out hard coded. We will now see from this position, will this work? Sign in. And we're up and running. So that's with all of these new ones. So we're managing to get to the back end. So we're managing to get onto this and access the database that we don't even need this anymore. Let's sign out and sign up with, let's see, okay, so we have a connection, we've managed to go to the back, so let's go over here, refresh the database, and there we go. So we've managed to get the database connected via render. So let's add those, update the fetch URL plural, commit, sync those changes. Okay, so we've now got two elements that we've got working. So last one to do is to see can we get the front end, the client, up in the cloud, and we're going to use a site called Vercel. Off we go. Let's go to Vercel, and now I'm already signed up, so I'm going to log in. I need to create a new project, and I need to install Vercel with my GitHub. I just want to do the select one I want to do, which we are now not the API but the client. Read access to email addresses, that is fine. We're installing. Right, now what's interesting, notice there, it's already spotted that I'm using Vite. So it can read what I'm doing and knows what I'm up to, so let's import that one. Right, let's see the setup features. So it says auth client React, that's what I called it, I'm happy with that. Framework presets, so if you have a look, all of these different setups we can have if you've used different build tools, etc., and it will just figure it out for you, which is fantastic. Root directory, again, this is the benefit of having the API and the client separate. Now when I say root directory, I don't have to do any manipulation at all, it's just the bottom, that's it, root, don't need to change anything. Build and output settings, fantastic. I don't need to do anything, it already knows about the build tools and Vite, great, don't have to worry. Environment variables are on the front end, so we don't really want to do that anyway. Deploy. Here we go, so next steps. Well, let's keep that page. We're live. So in fact, let's see the tools here again. You'd think we're almost done. You know, I can go to sign in and we get the correct route, sign up. However, we've got a slight issue. The way this works, if we go to the API again, on the API there is a thing called cores. So I need to go to, I think it's the app. Right, here we go. So what we'll notice, if we try at the moment, we managed successfully to sign in as me, but we're going to get an issue this time. Straight away. Okay, we've got a cause policy issue. Now it says, this is the important part here, access control allow origin header as a value of localhost 5173 that is not equal to the supplied origin. That's this part. So for cause, it will put through that when you are trying to connect one site to another site, browsers now will intercept that and say that that's not allowed, just so that there's no cross-browser kind of attacks that can happen. So you actually tell it where it's coming from so that it's aware. So it says it's from localhost 5173 because we haven't updated that yet. So let's go back here and say this is, well in fact home, that is where we want it to go from. Now we have the correct one. I need to update the API. Let's be careful. This, if I try to do this immediately, I'm pretty sure it won't work. So we need to go here. That says that's the most latest one done. So it's not had time to look through. It says build's too slow. Manual deploy. Deploy latest commit. Update cause origin to cloud. So now we're knowing that the back end is going to be the most up-to-date information. My experience has been these things still take a little bit of time to go through. I had a lot of issues, I may have mentioned already, that it was supposedly finished here, and I went back to my front end and I still got, well, I got similar cause issues. I tried lots of different things. I thought, oh, I've got the domain, but does it need to have the path? Does it need to have sign in, sign up as well? Something's going on. Later it turned out it was just that things hadn't synced through everywhere quickly enough, and also the front end needed refreshing, so it wasn't working on the right information. So we're going to give it a significant amount of time, and I advise you do too if you follow and do your own work. And there we are. So it's really worth you bearing in mind that that reset there is insufficient. You'll need to make sure you do a hard reset with Shift Command R. Okay, so I hope that was useful. You now see that you've got a fully signed up website. We're on Vercel on the front end version. On the back end, we've got render, and we've got over this side, you can see we've got our database all working. Thank you.